Hola, hola, hello. This is Lolita or Yvette with Yvette's Turn. Okay, I hope this. My phone is looking crooked. Whatever, y'all. Okay, let's see. Please stay. And let's see if we can. Okay, here we are. All right, I have a LaCroix here, and let me bring you in a little closer. So, there we go. Y'all, pardon the faces I'm making. All right, I have a LaCroix here. Just sip on. That is so refreshing. And I have my window up, and that little breeze is feeling really nice. So y'all forgive me for keep messing with this. I'm trying to get it right. Okay, I think that's good. But you may hear cars or people coming by. So I think the title in itself that I have on the thumbnail may very well weed out uh, religious people. Forgot to put on my perfume. So we can get the rest of us, and forgot to put on my blush. And so the rest of us can get on with it. All right. So I was doing my hair because I shampooed and conditioned and all, deep conditioned and all that good stuff. Give me a second here. We'll get going. I shampooed and deep conditioned, and I was thinking about some things as I was under the dryer deep conditioning. Hello, hello. Um, so I was thinking about some things, and I had a conversation with someone about this topic of destiny swapping. And I'm going to say again the title that I chose, uh, except for the nosy religious people, should weed out uh, the religious minded people because of my word choice, so the rest of us can get on with it. All right, 100 likes. I'm putting on blush. I forgot to put my blush on. Anyway, destiny swapping, a study in dumbassness. Because, okay, destiny swapping, everybody has a purpose. Okay? It's not like it's not like there's a person that doesn't have purpose. All right? And I'm going to use this book. Now, I do read other books, and there's other truths out there that are not in this book. Okay? And part of that is what we call the Apocrypha. Some council of Nicaea, if I remember correctly, got together and decided uh, what they thought should be in the 66 books that we were given. There are so many more books, in case you weren't aware of it. Yeah, I'm still getting ready. Okay, so forgive me for that. All right, but using this, even this, what we've been given, and I try to use this. This is what I'm most familiar with, what's called the Bible, and I'm in HCSB version right now because it's what I'm most familiar with, and it's what most people are familiar with. Everybody has a purpose. There's a portion of scripture that says that some are given to be gold uh, instruments or cups or vessels in the hands of divine. Some are given to be silver vessels. in the hands of the divine. Some are given to be bronze vessels in the hand of divine, some wood, but they all have purpose. All the vessels have purpose. What goes wrong is when a vessel or a person tries to be something other than what they were made to be. If I am a wooden vessel, I encounter problems trying to be a silver vessel or trying to be a gold vessel. All of us have purpose, okay? But when one tries to walk outside of their lane or wants to walk in the lane of another's purpose, that's when problems come. And there are people who are not satisfied with their lives, with their choices, with things that they've done and their path, but they, instead of facing it and dealing with it and asking divine, saying, divine, I'm on the corner of 12th and I messed up everything, please come get me. Instead of doing that, they look over at somebody else, and it's usually somebody they're really familiar with, call themselves familiar with, and look at their life and see how they choose to. And it's not that the other people that they're looking at haven't been through anything, it's the mentality and how that person tends to process things and look at things. And you have people who are not satisfied with the vessel that they've been made to be, or they could be a vessel of silver, but they want to be a vessel of gold because they look over there and they see, oh, that's a vessel of gold. I don't even like owning the fact or saying the truth that they're a vessel of gold, but I want to be that vessel of gold. That should be me. That should be me. And we're around the earth. If y'all haven't figured it out yet, we are around earth with a lot of people whose elevators don't go to the top. If you haven't noticed, I you know, I hope that's not a revelation to you. We are on planet Earth, Gaia, if you will, with people who not all their spark plugs are firing. So there are actually people who think they can manipulate timelines, prophecies, and destinies. People who think, well, if I don't like how my life is going and what the tarot reader or the prophet said about my life, but I heard and actually went and got a reading on so and so, I like what his or her prophecy says. I'm gonna try to swap, and what I'm gonna do is try to keep this person off balance and keep their energy off balance, and that way it makes it easier for me to weave my way into their energy. It's a lesson in futility. It's a study in futility and dumbassness. Okay? Now, let's go to First Kings. And like I said, I'm in HCSB. First Kings chapter 3. This should be fairly quick. Starting at verse 16, and it's titled in my book, Solomon's Wisdom. It says here, then two women who were prostitutes came to the king and stood before him. And the king was Solomon at this time. I'm not going to go through the history of Israel and Solomon being one of the kings, and he's the son of David. You have to at least come with the programming, at least read. And at some point, because it says then the end, because I'm getting off subject here, but it says at some point we're gonna have to discuss this patriarchy. At some point, we're going to have to discuss this patriarchy. Then, two women who were prostitutes. Why did they have to be prostitutes? Okay, came to the king and stood before him. But at some point, we need to talk about patriarchy because it has failed us on this planet. And whether you know it or not, and again, I come out of Christianity, so a lot of times I address Christians. Whether you know it or not, at one time before patriarchy took over, women ran things. Women would give birth to children, and then they would go away to like train and things like that, and leave the care of the children with the men. But you don't want to talk about that. But that's a side note. And this a side note because women get a bad deal, like these two women in this book being called prostitutes. I think the story could have been told without them being prostitutes. But that's not my main thing. We're talking about destiny swap and a study in dumbassness. And I'm using that term for a reason. Okay? Verse 17. One woman said, "Please, my lord," talking to the king, "this woman and I live in the same house, and I had a baby while she was in the house. On the third day after I gave birth, she also had a baby, and we were alone. No one else was with us in the house, no witnesses. Just the two of us were there." Verse 19. "During the night, this woman's son died because she lay on him. She got up in the middle of the night and took my son from my side while your servant was asleep. She laid him at her breast, and she put her dead son in my arms." Verse 21. "When I got up in the morning to nurse my son, I discovered he was dead. That morning, when I looked closely at him, I realized that he was not the son I gave birth to." Now I want to stop right there because here is the crux of the matter with two women who lived in the same house. They both had babies. One of them turned over on her baby and killed it. But she went in the middle of the night and swapped babies, gave the other woman the dead baby. This is destiny swapping now. The dead gave her the dead baby and took her living baby. Okay, these are stories, but these stories are based on the fact that there are people walking the earth that have hearts like this and will do things like this. If you actually sit down and think about some of these stories in these ancient texts, it's really something to think about. That people will actually do some of the things they have done and will do. I couldn't imagine trying to steal somebody's child and saying it's mine, or somebody's anything, their destiny, their voice, their gifts, their house, their spouse, their inheritance. But you have people that will do that. That's why this is written in here. This woman killed her son by accident and took the other woman's son and claimed it as her own, then went before authority, the government, took the issue before government and lied, perjured herself before the king, saying this live baby is mine, knowing what she did and knowing that the live baby was not hers. That was not her destiny. Her destiny was her baby died because she lay on it, didn't tend to it, ignored it, didn't treat it right, didn't take it seriously, didn't take her process and her journey and taking up her cross or his cross seriously. So that person's baby or destiny or purpose and dream died. But then you want to take somebody else's whose is living, intended to. Okay? And stood before the king, like I said, and lied. But see, this is it's not a smart thing to do. People who do these things and they'll go to practitioners, they'll do work themselves if they think they have some kind of ashe, trying to destiny swap and trying to get things change paperwork and documents and things like that, trying to get access to different assets and things like that. People who do things like that can't be wrapped too tight. Let's keep reading. Verse 22. No, the other woman said, my son is the living one. Your son is the dead one. The first woman said, no, your son is the dead one. My son is the living one. So they argued back and forth before the king. Verse 23. The king replied, and watch this wisdom. This is the kind of leaders that earth needs now. Leaders of governments, leaders of religious institutions, if they're going to be religious institutions. We really don't need religion. Religion has been a problem. But we need wisdom. We need wise women. We need wise men, and women that care about the community, that care about somebody other than themselves, that care about seeing earth restored, families restored, children being safe. These are the kind of leaders we need. Watch this wisdom. Verse 23. Then the king replied, which is Solomon, this woman says, this is my son who is alive, and your son is dead. But that woman says, no, your son is dead and mine is alive. The king continued, bring me a sword. So they brought the sword to the king. And Solomon said, because Solomon was the king, cut the living boy in two and give half to one and half to the other. Don't get lost in the order, in the order that the king made. Don't get lost in that. Because it's some people that you run across can miss a whole point. They can't get to the benefit for their soul of the main point because they get stuck at issues like this. Go past the issue that he was going to have had asked to have a sword and to split the baby in two and give half of the baby to one woman and half to the other. He knew what he was doing because this was a wise man who understood the nature of a real mother. And let me go back up here. You have to use wisdom. You have to do the spiritual and the mundane. Up here where it says, when I got up in the morning, verse 21, to nurse my son, I discovered he was dead. That morning, when I looked closely at him, I realized that he was not the son I gave birth to. You have to do the spiritual and the mundane. That is what is behind the concept of the crossroads, especially in the hoodoo tradition. that what's called the African American hoodoo tradition. The concept of the crossroads is the idea of spirit and the mundane intersecting. What do you mean right here when you read this verse, Lolita, and you say that she got up in the morning and she said she looked closely at her son and saw that it was not the one she gave birth to. When I had my babies, and I have two, they're 30 and 32 now. Okay. When I had my babies, my husband was there. Okay. He took me to the emergency room when I went into labor and all that stuff. Okay. He's my ex-husband now, but at the time we were married. And so we go to the hospital. Well, I don't know what he was thinking because he was talking about going to Walgreens while I'm over here in labor. And I told him, you're not going to Walgreens. You're going to stay right here. You didn't go to Walgreens when you were making them. Okay? And I'm going to leave it, but I mean, that's life. Some of y'all too, that's life. Sexuality is part of life. You just need to know how to possess your vessel in honor and not be in everybody's bed. There should be commitment and safe practices and knowing how to possess your vessel in honor. Okay? That's another thing about Christians. A lot of y'all are a lot of sticklers. Some of y'all are sticklers when it comes to sexuality, and some of y'all are just all out hoes. Okay? But I digress. You have to do the spiritual and the mundane. When I had my babies, and was in the hospital, I said, no, you're not going to Walgreens. You're going to stay here and watch when they're born so you can see what they look like. So the hospital can't accidentally swap babies. Because we going home with the baby I carried for 9 months. My son almost 10 months, because I thought I was going to have to eat a sandwich and put a note in there and say, you were supposed to be here 2 weeks ago. The spirit and the mundane, wisdom. Okay, so 23. So he said, bring the sword. I'm going to cut the baby in half. But don't get lost in that, because this king, real leaders have wisdom. And he knew that the real mother was going to say, don't kill my child. If you have to give it to the woman that's lying, give it to the woman that's lying. Do that. I can't stand to see you cut my baby in half. Let's read. Okay. Verse 24. The king continued, bring me the sword. So they brought the sword to the king. Verse 25. Solomon said, cut the living boy in two and give half to one and half to the other. Verse 26. The woman whose son was alive spoke to the king because she felt great compassion. Some of y'all want to be leaders and you can't see. You can't see. And really halfway in the natural, let's not even talk about in the spirit. But you leading people. Hateful, selfish, don't really care about the outcome. Don't really care about people's problems. If somebody brought this case to you, everybody'd be dead. Because you don't care. And you haven't been processed enough for any of your spirit team to communicate with you. You can't tell if it's a member of your spirit team talking to you or a demon. But you want to lead somebody. This king had the wisdom to make that decree because he knew where it was going and what a real mother would do. Let's keep reading. The woman whose son was alive, verse 26, spoke to the king because she felt great compassion for her son. My lord, give her the living baby, she said. But please don't have him killed. And as a mother, I feel that. Okay. Verse 27, the king responded, give the living baby to the first woman and don't kill him. She is his mother. And we're talking about the son, or talking about babies, but we're talking about destiny and the fact that one woman whose destiny was dead, or her son, tried to take somebody else's destiny, as if divine would not know the difference. I'm almost done. Let's look at Jeremiah. Because some of y'all, especially Christians, y'all read, and I guess some of, because I'm thinking about a couple of people in particular, and you go on these little silly fasts, and there's nothing wrong with fasting. I fast every day. I do a lifestyle fast. Fasting is good, but some of y'all, it's really no point because you're evil and don't intend to change. Now you tell me, y'all are taking divine for a dummy, thinking you can destiny swap. Jeremiah, verse 2. See, some of y'all don't get it. Jeremiah chapter 1 says, the word of Jeremiah, the son of Hilkiah, one of the priests living in Anatoth in the territory of Benjamin. Okay. The word of the Lord came to him in the 13th year of the reign of Josiah, son of Ammon, the king of Judah. It also came throughout the days of Jehoiakim, son of Josiah, king of Judah, until the 5th month of the 11th year of Zedekiah, son of Josiah. That's a lot of names, y'all, I know. King of Judah, when the people of Jerusalem went into exile, okay? It's a preview, but here's what I want. Verse 4, the word of the Lord came to me, Jeremiah said. And verse 5 says, this is God, divine, talking to Jeremiah. I chose you before I formed you in the womb. I set you apart before you were born. I appointed you, not somebody who wants to destiny swap with you because they have had readings on your life and decided they like the outcome of your life better, and then try to go crafting and going to have rituals and spells done trying to swap destinies as if divine is done. We make contracts before we come here. What do you think Jeremiah is talking about right here? When divine said, I chose you before I formed you in the womb. I set you apart before you were born. To do what? I appointed you a prophet to the nations. And for somebody to get here, get them a body, a cell phone, and some Wi-Fi, and a paycheck to go pay somebody to do rituals to swap destinies, you can't be wrapped too tight. Lee. And you certainly, supposing to be a Christian, supposed to be saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost, fire baptized, do speak in tongues as the Spirit of God gives you utterance, lying, bug-eyed heifer. That's what you are. Now, I told y'all I'm not Christian, so I'm free to tell the truth. If you think you can destiny swap, you don't understand. You either hadn't read Jeremiah, what we just read, or you don't understand. Now, out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let every word be established. Now, let's run back over here. You little bug-eyed heifer. Let's run back over here to Psalm 110. And we talked about this the other day. Psalm 110, verse 4, where the Lord said, the Lord has sworn an oath and will not take it back. Forever, you are a particular person. not whosoever will. See, so this is the problem with thinking everything can be shoved under a cross, that all your evil can be shoved under a cross and everything is whosoever will. No, there's some you in this particular use. There are people that are chosen vessels for specific purposes. Remember, I told you about the different vessels. It's an example in scripture where some vessels are made to honor as gold, some as silver, some as bronze, some as wood. People have particular callings. And some wood or bronze vessel trying to be a gold vessel is fixing to hurt themselves. You haven't been processed to move like a gold vessel. You gonna hurt yourself. Let me finish this up because I'm done. The point is made. Psalm 110, verse 4. The Lord has sworn an oath and will not take it back. Forever you, a particular individual, are a priest like Melchizedek. If you are a vessel of wood, be that. If you are a vessel of bronze, be that. If you are a vessel of silver, that's your lane. Stay there. But thinking you can destiny swap with people, and this is coming for a reason. I'm saying this for a reason. You're going to end up hurting yourself. And I don't even want to say I'm afraid because I'm not afraid. In fact, I think it's nicely timed, like I talked about the other day, because some people's cup of iniquity is full and divine is riding. So no, I don't feel sorry for you. But you should have learned your lesson and should never have tried what you tried. This has been Yvette with Yvette's Turn. Y'all have a lovely evening.